So my grandma passed away about an hour ago. For one, I want to start out by saying that I'm not sad. And maybe some people will see this and be like, oh, she just hasn't been processing it or it just hasn't hit yet. I don't think that's the case. But first, I do want to say I got ready to film and definitely was not planning to film this video today. Part of the video that I was originally going to film has to do with manifestation, and I was going to share that I'm actually going to be holding a free manifestation workshop. It'll be held on Zoom, and I will leave you with that. Check out the link down below. But back to losing my grandma. If you've been around my channel for a while, I've expressed in multiple videos how I always had massive anxiety around death. Like I had this overwhelming hyperfixation, obsession, fear obsession over it. Since I was little, I had this thing where oftentimes I would wake up, like maybe in the morning or from a nap, and I'd wake up and my first thoughts were, this is all so temporary, everyone's gonna die, my dog's gonna die, my grandparents are gonna die, my parents are gonna die, I'm gonna die someday, like everyone is gonna die. Like that seems like a really strange thought process for a child to experience so frequently. So again, death was my biggest fear. And it's interesting now because here we are, those thoughts and fears that I had that I used to list off as a child and as a teenager, my dog's gonna die, my grandparents are gonna die, my parents are gonna die, like those things are starting to happen. I haven't really shared much on social media, but my dog Clifford, who was 15 and a half years old, I got him in high school. He actually just passed away a few months ago while I was house sitting down in Malibu. The part that crushed me the most was seeing how upset my parents were because they were afraid that I was going to be torn apart. So I actually more so cried seeing my father cry, telling me that my dog was gone. It really affected him, but it was interesting because for me, I was like, oh, this isn't hitting very intensely. Like, I'm sad that I wasn't there. I'm okay. It's okay. It's a natural part of life. He lived for 15 and a half years, and I just was sad that I didn't give him a ton of attention the last few months of his life because I was so busy. That was where my sadness was, that I wasn't super present with him. So again, with my grandma passing away and me not being sad and people potentially thinking that it just hasn't hit me yet or haven't processed it yet, that's kind of how I felt when my dog passed away. And also my Aunt Lisa a few years ago when she passed away, I had a similar reaction. And the thing is with these people, with Clifford, with my Aunt Lisa, with my grandma, these are all expected deaths. My Aunt Lisa had cancer and she was deteriorating in hospice care. Like it was very clearly the end of her life. Clifford was 15 and a half. That was like a very long lifespan for a dog. My grandma was in at-home hospice care for 2 years. So she just laid in a bed for 2 years. Couldn't hear very well, so she was just sitting there, probably bored out of her mind. 97 years old when she finally passed away. And I'm actually happy that she was able to pass away. And I'm just thinking of the past version of me. If someone were to say like, I'm happy my grandmother passed away and that I'm not sad, I would have been like, are you crazy? Are you heartless? What's wrong with you? But my perspective and understanding of death has changed drastically. And that is because I don't believe that you pass away and it's just the end. Again, if you've been around here for a while, you know my perspective on this. I'm also not religious. I grew up Christian. I do not identify as Christian, although I do have spiritual faith. I believe in God. I don't believe that people pass away and if they weren't Christian or weren't a specific religious belief or whatever, that they suffer for all of eternity. And I have my own proof of that. I'm not trying to convince anyone else, but through my experience, I've shared this multiple times here before, but just a refresher. My Aunt Lisa, the one who passed away from cancer, she lived an extremely traumatic life. She had a massive childhood trauma that she never got help for, and she just developed a lot of emotional, mental health issues, and that's exactly how she ended up getting cancer, because her womb space filled with tumors to the point where she looked like a pregnant skeleton. Like she looked like she had like quadruplets in her, and it was all filled with tumors because that is where her childhood trauma stemmed from. And she was very bitter. I was one of the very few people that she liked. So anyway, again, if you know the story, you know the story, but I just want to be able to share it because it's really important. The night my Aunt Lisa passed away, she was in Oregon, I was in Los Angeles. The night it happened, I woke up in the middle of the night with this like energy rushing through my body, full body chills, like this big energy rushing through my body. And my first thought upon waking up, it was around 3 a.m., was, my Aunt Lisa just passed away. That's what this feeling is. My Aunt Lisa just passed away. And then my phone dinged and I was like, that is someone messaging me saying that my Aunt Lisa just passed away, but I don't want to look at it because I don't want to know if that's true or not, because if it is, it's 3 a.m. and I won't be able to fall back asleep. So I'm just going to put that to the side. But sure enough, when I woke up in the morning, I checked my phone and it was my uncle saying that my Aunt Lisa had just passed away. And right then, as I was looking at those messages, I look up at my patio and there's a brown dove out there. There's actually 2 brown doves. There were 2 brown doves on the patio. And I looked up on Google spiritual meaning of a brown dove. And what popped up was it said mourning dove, like mourning the loss, not like mourning, it's good morning, but like mourning the loss of a loved one. And the message that I read was that this is a message from your past loved one. They love you, they support you, they're on the other side, they're doing okay, and they're always with you, and just like some other things that just really resonated. Since then, I've had so many experiences with messages from my Aunt Lisa through mediums that I didn't seek out. They came to me. If you've heard about my friend Carissa, I'm not going to share that whole story, but I had a wild reading from Carissa when we met, and I didn't know she was a medium. It was just like in a friendship group, and my Aunt Lisa came through her, and it was exactly spot on, and she predicted some things that later happened. And then I also have had visitation dreams of my Aunt Lisa. My Aunt Lisa told me that my cousin was going to have a baby girl. That also came through in the reading with Carissa, and also wanted me to tell my mom that she's no longer suffering. I will link the video where I go more in depth with these stories down below. But yeah, I've just had very strong connections with my Aunt Lisa, and other people passed away. Also, when I was 18, I was dating someone who passed away, and I've had some pretty huge guidance and support from him as well. But going back to Lisa, through religious standards, any religion pretty much, I would say, probably. I mean, I don't know all the religions, but through religious standards, specifically Christianity, my Aunt Lisa did not live a life or have a belief system that would end with her being okay on the other side. Through Christianity, my aunt's life would have landed her in the bad place. And she's not in the bad place. She is healing, or she's healed on the other side. She supports me. There's so many points of guidance from her all the time. And that is exactly the experience that made me no longer fear death. And so now that my grandma's gone, I'm like, my grandma's free. She's having a reunion with Lisa. She's having a reunion with her sister Betty. She's having a reunion with her husband. And yeah, so when she passed away, literally like a little over an hour ago, it was interesting because I got a ringing tone in my ear. And if you know about like the spiritual senses and gifts, oftentimes, yeah, there are ear diseases and stuff, but from my experience, we can get those ringing and those tones in our ears, and it's oftentimes spirit trying to speak. It's clairaudience trying to come online. So I got this tone in my ear. I didn't know exactly what it meant, but it was when I was setting up my camera, and I was like, oh, what is that? Whenever I hear tones, I just stop in the moment and try to like tune in to whatever it could potentially mean. I'm also going to check and see if this is still filming, because that would suck if it's not. So I got the tone, and I was like, cool, some sort of communication. Don't know what that's about. Doesn't always mean it's a past loved one. It could just be like guides or angels or God, because I believe in all of those things. I do believe in God. I believe in Jesus. A lot of people think that if you're not claiming Christianity, that you don't believe in those things. Like, Jesus was a cool dude. Jesus was like a psychic, a medium, a healer. He said to follow him. And I don't believe that just meant to put him on a crazy pedestal and idolize him, but he was like, follow me, be like me, be a healer, be spiritually tapped in, tune into the guidance. So I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at being Christ-like, if you ask me, when it comes to that. But yeah, so the tones can come from those places. Anyway, so I had that tone, and like 10 minutes later, I got a text from my dad saying, your grandma just passed away. My mom's over there because she knew she was going to be passing away. And so I called my mom. My mom is very much Christian, but we have kind of a similar perspective of losing loved ones. But so my mom's not like breaking down or anything. She's like, she's in a better place. Anyway, she told me that her other sister, who's currently in Idaho, my grandma just passed away in Oregon, when my mom called her to tell her that their mother passed away, my aunt was already crying because she knew, because she heard my grandma's voice saying, don't worry, I'm in heaven now, like right at the point that she died. And so she already knew when my mom called that that's what she was gonna say. And it's interesting because I wouldn't necessarily view that aunt as super religious, so the fact that that came through to her is really cool. And so it was also cool for me to be able to tell my mom about the ringing tone in my ear. And although I have a very Christian mother, it's been really interesting over the last like year or two. I've shared the little things that have happened with Lisa, my aunt. Like I shared what happened when she passed away, and I felt it and I knew, and then the doves, the sign of the doves, and she was open to that. And I told her about my dream from my Aunt Lisa and how she said that my cousin was going to have a baby and it was going to be a girl. The day I told my mom about that dream, the day before, my cousin called my mom telling her she was pregnant. So when I told her about the dream, she was like, what? And then when they found out it was a girl, my mom came running to me like, oh my gosh, it was a girl. And so through that, I was able to tell my mom, like, look, your sister's not suffering. She's not like damned to hell. I'm sure, this is an assumption, but I'm pretty sure in my mom's mind, she's probably like, oh, someone must have been with her praying for her to be saved at the end of her life. So that I'm pretty sure that's her thought process, but still, it's been cool to have my own spiritual experiences with my understanding and share them with my mom and her be open to them. And so, yes, I'm happy that my grandmother passed away. She is no longer suffering. She's on the other side. She's already sending messages. She's good. I've noticed now, especially it's interesting right now, them on the other side, it almost just like energizes. It's like they send me energy, or maybe it's them trying to connect with me, but I feel like inspired. I know that sounds so weird, especially because it used to be such a pain point for me, but like I feel this energy of like I have this support on the other side and they're cheering me on and they want me to open up and they want me to share these things, and it just makes me want to utilize the time I have in this life to make the most of it, which I have been doing. It's interesting, the more people we have on our team on the other side, I feel, and if you're open to the guidance, the more magic happens. After Chris passed away when I was 18. Amazing things happened when I opened my heart and started to use that loss as a turning point to make the most of my life. And then again, when my Aunt Lisa passed away, I had all these big, amazing experiences and spiritual experiences happen. And I feel this energy with my grandma as well. It's nothing to be afraid of. I have some really good book recommendations if this is a subject you want to open up more to. Signs. Signs, The Secret Language of the Universe by Laura Lee Jackson. I think she has another one called The Light Between Us. And then Many Lives, Many Masters is a really good one as well that will really help open you up. Because honestly, again, when I stopped fearing death, it made me fearless. Like the thing that used to be the biggest fear, worst case scenario thing for me is now not the worst case scenario. Like the worst case scenario that could happen in life, I feel, is that you pass away. Like your life, the life ends. But even when it ends, it's not over. I do believe though that we're supposed to learn specific lessons. If people are suffering and they take the easy way out, like you still have to grow and learn from that on the other side. I also, again, would recommend reading Many Lives, Many Masters to understand where the consequences are. And it's not like you're in trouble consequences, but there are things that you need to learn, and opting out of the game, like exiting the game early, is something you have to learn and work through, but you're not punished for all of eternity for any of it. So yeah, now my biggest fear is no longer as relevant. Of course, I still want to live a full life, and on a human like ego level, like the thought of like danger and something happening, like I'm not just chill and like, oh yeah, it's okay, I can go out anytime. Like I don't want that to happen, but it's okay when the day comes. Hopefully I'm old. Hopefully it's not a situation like my grandma where I'm deteriorating for years. Like I hope it's a smooth transition, but either way, it's not the end. And again, that is why I've been able to do so many things and take brave moves in my life and know how supported I am. I'm always so supported. So that is my 2 cents on that. I hope it helped in any way. Maybe it shifted your perspective on some things. Again, I do have my manifestation workshop coming up early October. I don't have the date nailed down yet, although it's probably going to be October 10, so 10/10, and we'll figure out a time. But sign up early and come hang out. It's going to be on Zoom, and we can see each other face-to-face virtually. Again, I'm good. Shout out to my grandma. I think she's probably also on the other side now, like going, oh, Annie's a lot more spiritually open and aware than I thought, because they will come through oftentimes more easily to the people who are open, because the people who aren't open to it would oftentimes just like kind of brush off or write off the signs, or like think a dream is just a simple dream, not notice the synchronicities. So the fact that I'm open makes it a lot easier for that spiritual support to land. Let me know your thoughts down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you resonated with it or if it gave you any aha moments. Anyway, I appreciate you, and I will see you soon. All right, bye.